it, but once I started, I got hooked. Bad. What hooked you about being a detective, she wanted to know. She was a good listener, interested. Do you remember an incident? Any one thing in particular? As a matter of fact, I do. 2 men had been shot down in Southeast, which is where I live in Washington, where I grew up. The deaths were written off as drug-related, which meant not much time would be spent investigating them. At the time, that was SOP in D.C. Still is, actually. Jamila nodded. I'm afraid that it is in parts of San Francisco, too. We like to think of our city as enlightened, and it can be, but people out there are good at looking the other way. Makes me sick sometimes. Anyway, I knew these 2 men, and I was almost certain they weren't involved in selling drugs. Well, they both had jobs at a small local music store. Maybe they smoked a little weed, but nothing worse than that. I know the types you're talking about. So I investigated the murder case on my own. A detective friend named John Sampson helped. I learned to follow my gut. Found out that one of the men had been dating a woman who a local drug dealer thought he owned. I kept digging, following my instincts, digging a little deeper. Turns out the dealer had murdered the 2 men. And once I solved that case, it was all over for me. I knew I was good at it, maybe because of all the psych training I'd had, and I liked making things right. Or maybe I just liked being right. Sounds like you have some balance in your life, though. The kids, your grandmother, friends, she said. We let it go at that. Didn't pursue the obvious, that Jamila and I were both single and unattached. It had nothing to do with our jobs. If only it were that simple. Chapter 64. One comforting reality of police work is that you rarely come up against a murder situation that you've never seen or heard about before. These killings were different. Seemingly random, vicious, ongoing for more than 11 years. Varying modi operandi. What made the case particularly difficult was the possibility that there were several killers. I met with Kyle that following morning to talk about the case. He was in a foul mood, and I couldn't wait to get out of there. We shared our pet theories and whiny complaints. Then I rejoined Jamila Hughes on the stakeout in the Garden District. I brought a box of Krispy Kremes, which got a major chuckle from her and also from the FBI agents watching the house. Everybody clamored for the tasty air-shot donuts, though. The entire box was gone in a matter of minutes. Turns out they're real homebodies, she said as she munched on a glazed. It's still daylight. They're probably in their coffins, I said. She grinned and shook her head. Her dark eyes sparkled. Not exactly. The shorter one, Charles, was working in the garden out back all morning. He's certainly not afraid of the sun. So maybe Daniel is the real vampire, the sire. He's supposed to be the force behind the magician's act. Charles has been on the phone a lot. He's setting up a party at the house. You'll love this. It's a fetish ball. Wear your favorite kinky things. Leather, rubber, goth, Victorian, whatever you're into. What are you into? She asked. I laughed, thought about it. Mostly denim corduroy, a little black leather. I have a leather car coat. It's a little beat up, but it's nasty looking. She laughed. I think you'd look dashing as a gothic prince. Well, how about you? Any fetishes we should know about? Well, I'll admit to owning a couple of leather jackets, pants, one pair of long boots that I'm still paying for. I am from San Francisco, you know. A girl has to keep up with the times. Same for us boys. It was another long day of surveillance. We continued to watch the house until dark. Around 9 o'clock, a pair of FBI agents dropped by to relieve us. Let's get a bite, I said to Jamila. Bad choice of words, Alex. We both laughed a little too hard. We didn't want to venture too far from the magician's house, so we settled on the Camellia Grill on South Carrollton Avenue at the river bend. The Camellia looked like a small plantation home on the outside. Inside it was a neat diner, with a long counter and stools screwed to the floor. A waiter in a crisp white jacket and black tie served us. We ordered coffee and omelets, which were light and fluffy, and about the size of rolled-up newspapers. Jamila had a side order of red beans and rice. Went in the Big Easy. The food was good, the coffee even better. The company was nice, too. She and I got along well, maybe even better than that. Even the lulls in our conversation weren't too uncomfortable, and they were infrequent. A friend of mine once defined love as finding someone you can talk to late into the night. Pretty good. Nothing on the beeper, she said, while we loitered over our coffee after the meal. I had heard there were lines outside the Camellia during lunch and dinner, but we had caught a slow time. I wonder what the two of them do inside that big, eerie house, Alex. What do psycho murderers do in their spare time? I'd studied enough of them. There was no set pattern. Some are married, even happily if you ask spouses. Gary Soneji had a little girl. Jeffrey Schaefer had 3 children. That's probably the scariest thing I can imagine. When a husband or the person next door or dad turns out to be a stone-cold killer. It happens. I've seen it. She sipped her coffee refill. The neighbors seemed to like Daniel and Charles. They considered them eccentric but pleasant, and, I love this, civic-minded. Daniel owns the house. He inherited it from his father, who was also eccentric, a portrait painter. Rumor has it the magicians are gay, but they're often seen in the company of young, attractive women. Vampires aren't restricted by gender. I learned that from Peter Weston, I said. These two are equal opportunity killers, males and females. Something still isn't matching up for me, though. There's a logic hole I keep trying to fill. A few of them, actually. Their magical mystery tour sure matches up with a lot of the murders, Alex, she said. I know it. I can't dispute the evidence we've collected so far. But you have one of your famous feelings. I don't know about famous, but something feels wrong to me. This thing isn't tracking right. The other shoe hasn't dropped. That's what worries me. Why did they get sloppy all of a sudden? They went undetected for years, and now several dozen FBI agents are watching their house. We drank our coffee and lingered in the restaurant, which was only half full, but would be humming again when the bars closed. Nobody pressured us to leave, and we weren't in a hurry to get back to the boredom of the stakeout. Jamila was interesting to me for a lot of reasons, but the main one was probably that I saw so much of my own experience in hers. We were both committed to police work. We had full lives, friends and family, and yet, in a way, we were loners. Why was that? You okay? She asked. Her eyes communicated concern. I usually can intuit good people, and she was one of them. No doubt about it. I just went away for a minute, I said. I'm back now. Where do you go when you take these little mind excursions? Florence, I said. It's probably the most beautiful city on earth. My favorite, anyway. And you were just in Florence, Italy? Actually, I was thinking about some of the similarities in our lives. She nodded. I've thought about it, too. What the heck is to become of us, Alex? Are we both doomed to repeat the same mistakes? Well, hopefully, we're going to catch 2 real bad killers here in New Orleans. How's that? Jamila reached over and patted my cheek, and then she said ruefully, That's what I think, too. We are doomed.
Chapter 65. The mastermind watched Alex Cross get out of the car. He had him in his sights. Cross and the lovely Inspector Jamila Hughes had returned from a dinner break and were back on surveillance duty. Were they getting closer? Would Alex and Jamila become lovers in New Orleans? That was an obvious flaw in Cross's character. He needed to be loved, didn't he? But now Cross was out of the car again. Something is bothering the great Cross. Maybe he needs to walk a little after the meal. Or maybe he needs to think about the case some more and wants to be alone. He is a loner, just like I am. This was amazing. This was no good. He followed Cross down a dark side street filled with modest homes of 2 styles, the double shotgun and the Creole cottage. Both were staples in this part of New Orleans. The fragrance of honeysuckle, jasmine, and gardenias was heavy in the air. He sucked in a breath. Pleasant. 100 years before, the scents had masked the odors of the nearby slaughterhouses. The mastermind knew his history, knew lots about most things, and the facts flowed easily through his mind as he continued to follow Cross at a safe distance. He retained information and knew how to use it. He could hear the rattle and hum of the St. Charles Avenue streetcar as it raced along its tracks a few blocks away. It helped to cover any slight sound of his own footsteps. He was enjoying this walk with Cross immensely, and he thought that maybe this would be the night. Just the idea sent adrenaline pumping through him. He continued to move closer to Cross. Yes, this was it. Right here, right now. He partly expected Cross to spin around and look at him. That would be good, so rich, ironic, fitting. Proof of Cross's instincts, and that he was a worthy adversary. He ducked into some lurks, and he circled. He was only a few yards away from Cross now. He could close the distance in an instant. Cross came to a stop at the old Lafayette Cemetery, the so-called City of the Dead. Inside the gates were lavish, above-ground vaults, multi-burial graves. The mastermind stopped as well. He savored this, second by second. A New Orleans Police Department sign was posted on the gates, patrolled. The mastermind doubted that was true, though, and it didn't really matter, did it? He could eat the NOPD for lunch. Cross looked around, but he didn't see the mastermind in the shadows. Should he jump him now? Would they fight hand to hand? It didn't matter. He knew he would win. He watched Alex Cross breathe. His last breaths on Earth? What a thought. Cross turned away from the cemetery and started down another side street. He was heading back to the surveillance car, to Inspector Hughes. The mastermind started forward, but then he turned away. This wasn't the night that Cross would die. He had taken mercy, spared him. The reason? It was too dark on this street. He wouldn't be able to see Cross's eyes when he died.
Chapter 66. Something surprising happened the next morning. It was an event I don't think any of us was expecting. I wasn't, and it threw me for a complete loop. We had gathered at the FBI's New Orleans office for the morning briefing. There were about 30 of us in a large and sterile room that looked out on the muddy brown Mississippi River. At 9 o'clock, Kyle addressed the surveillance team that had been on the watch during the previous 24 hours. He finished with them and went on to the day's assignments. He handed them out and was very specific. It was a typical Craig performance. Clear, to the point, efficient, never a mistake or the hint of one. When he was finished, or thought that he was, a hand shot into the air. "Excuse me, Mr. Craig. You didn't mention me. What am I supposed to do today?" It was Jamila Hughes, and she didn't sound happy. Kyle was already collecting his notes, shuffling a few papers into his thick black briefcase. He barely glanced up as he said, "That's up to Dr. Cross, Inspector Hughes. Please see him." The remark and its delivery were unnecessarily curt, even for Kyle. I was taken aback by his rudeness, or at least the lack of any tact. "This is complete bullshit." Jamila rose from her seat. "It's unacceptable, Mr. Craig, especially that irritating blasé tone of yours." The FBI agents in the room looked at her. Usually no one dared confront Kyle on anything. After all, he was rumored to be in line for the director's job someday. Moreover, many of them felt he deserved it. He was certainly smarter than anybody else in the Bureau. He also worked harder than anyone I knew. "Look, this is no reflection on Detective Cross," Jamila went on. "But my work in California helped open this case up. I don't want anybody's pat on the back, no condescending applause, thank you. But I came all the way here and I can contribute. So use me and respect me. By the way, I couldn't help noticing there's only one other woman on this entire task force. Don't bother to make excuses," she said, and waved off anything Kyle might have been ready to say in his defense. Kyle kept his cool. "Like the supposed vampires, Inspector Hughes. Gender doesn't matter to me. I do applaud your efforts during the early stages of this case, but as I said, you can see Dr. Cross about your assignment, or you can go back home right now if you like." "Thank you, everyone," he said as he saluted the team. "Happy hunting. Hopefully today will be our day." I was surprised. mostly by Kyle's response.